Well, folks, it has been a long time coming after 2 months of waiting since it was announced, but also years of waiting for this moment. It is finally time to do our Nintendo Switch 2 Direct predictions. We are going to go over everything from the release date to the pricing of this console, NSO updates, third-party games, first-party games, launch titles, everything that I think will be in this presentation. We are going to cover it. So if you are new here and you enjoy Nintendo Switch speculation, theories, all that fun stuff, I would appreciate you subscribing. Let's get into it. Alrighty, folks, welcome back. It's finally time. It feels unreal to say that. I'm recording this a little bit in advance just in case of any leaks that come out, but at the time of posting, we are less than 48 hours away from the Nintendo Switch 2 reveal, which is just so exciting. I really can't even begin to imagine what's going to be there, but that's what we're going to try to do today. We're going to try to make a cohesive list of things that I think will be here. Now, I wonder if my list might be a little too optimistic. I have had some thoughts that maybe this presentation will be a little bit more basic. Maybe they just kind of go bare bones. We get the pricing, release dates, they show what the Switch 2 is, they kind of have a lot of redundant information where it's like, well, this is a Joy-Con. It's like, we know what a Joy-Con is. So there is a little part of me that thinks it might be a little bit more bare bones than I'm expecting, but I rewatched the 2017 presentation. I looked at all of the games that were announced there, and I think I've made a pretty comparable list, especially when you look at the third-party side of things here, with just a little bit more, because I do think there will be more this time around. So without further ado, let's get into my predictions, my hopes, my dreams for this Nintendo Direct. Starting off with all of, I guess, like the kind of boring stuff, the launch date, the price. Launch dates. So I want to think it's May. My hope is that it's like May 22nd or May 29th. However, there have been so many rumors that suggest it is going to be releasing in June that for my actual prediction, I'm going to say June 6th. That is the first Thursday of the month. I really don't think it's going to be much later than that. They can't release it on the 19th because that is a federal holiday in the US. So I'm going to say June 6th for my prediction. My hope would be May 22nd, May 29th, May 8th even, earlier in the month would be amazing. But I'm going to say June 6th just based on so many different reports and rumors from reliable insiders that have been saying they've heard that it will be releasing in June, and I think it will launch at $399.99. I don't think they're going to go more than that. I don't think they're going to go less than that. If it was $350, that'd be incredible. I know some are a little bit more pessimistic or skeptical, I guess, of the $400 price tag here in the US. Maybe it'd be $450. Like, I think that's a strong maybe, but $500 out of the question. $450, If you do $450, you better include like a year of NSO or some sort of game or something, but I think $400 will be the actual asking price of this console, especially when you look historically at Nintendo console launches. When you adjust them all for inflation, they all kind of sit right around that $400 price. The Switch, which launched at $300 USD, is right around $400 now with inflation. So I think it'll be $400, and I do think that there will be other SKUs. I don't know how many. I'm going to assume 2, though. So I think we'll have the basic black that we've already seen with the black Joy-Con, black console, but then the interior are blue and orange, or I guess it's like a light red. I think it's orange, right? But the interior where it's the SL and SR are the colors, as well as inside of the joysticks, those are colored. I think we will have that, as well as one more. We'll have to wait and see what the design language looks like for this console. I don't know how crazy they want to get early on. I would love if they came out the gate swinging with a white console, where the back of the actual unit itself is white, the Joy-Con are whites. I would love to see that. I prefer white consoles, typically the PS5, OLED, right? I think they might save that, though, at which point maybe we get just another black Switch with like actual colored Joy-Con, right? So not just like the interior, the highlights. Maybe we actually see something like we had with the Switch 1 back in 2017, where there are neon red and blue Joy-Con and the entire Joy-Con is colored. I could see that. So whatever the case is, I do think we will have the basic Switch we've already seen, the Switch 2 we've already seen, as well as one more. For my next prediction, I actually have a little bit of bad news, I guess, depending on how you look at it. So I'm not sure if they'll do this in this presentation. Maybe they save it for a press release or a Nintendo Today updates in the coming weeks leading up to launch. But I do think that there will be a Nintendo Switch Online price increase or a new tier or something. The reason I say I'm not sure if they'll do it here is because I think the likelihood of a new tier is pretty strong. But if they introduce a new NSO tier, they would also have to talk about whatever is included in that, and that's going to take, I feel like, too much time out of this presentation. Maybe they could announce a GameCube NSO here. Maybe they could announce whatever this NSO playtest game is if that's tied into it. But I do think we will see a price increase for all tiers. I think the base would go up $10, the expansion pack would go up another 10, making it 60, and then we could see a new tier either at 90 or 100 for the Switch 2. Maybe you save that third tier for a direct later in the year, but I'm going to say NSO price increase. We've had it too good for too long. Nintendo knows they can get more out of us, especially as they keep adding just massive amounts of value. Feels like every week or two there's something exciting new being added. So I'm expecting a price increase for this year, and I think now would be the time to announce it. But let's get into those launch titles. We'll talk about the games that are further off a little bit from now, but let's start with the first-party launch titles. I am expecting 3 first-party games from Nintendo, which really isn't that different from what we've seen in the past. The Nintendo Switch actually launched with 3 because they had Breath of the Wild, 1-2 Switch, as well as Snipperclips, a much smaller Joy-Con focus game, co-op focus game. I think we will see 3 this time as well. I could maybe see the argument for a 4th if they want to have an eShop game, but I think there will be 3 retail games. The first of which will be Mario Kart 9. I don't know if they'll call it Mario Kart 9. I lean towards yes, just so that people know, like, okay, this is the next one. Especially when, you go to the eShop, you search Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is going to pop up on the Switch 2 eShop. I think calling it Mario Kart 9, just so there's no confusion, like, okay, this is the next one. It's the next step up after 8. I think that makes a lot of sense. And considering they revealed the console with this, it has always been the safest launch title prediction that you could make, and it is a massive one. I mean, this will be the best-selling game for the Switch 2, no doubt in my mind. So having it at launch does make a lot of sense, as we've discussed over the past several months. But I also think there will be 2 others, the first of which being a new Nintendo EPD4 project. EPD4 is always right there on launch day with whatever weird new gimmick the game they have, Wii Sports, Nintendo Land, 1-2 Switch. There will be something from them. Part of me wants to just straight up predict Switch Sports 2 because Switch Sports was such a big success. But I think whatever this game is needs to really show off the new gimmicks of the Switch 2. Most importantly, the mouse-con mode. So if there's some new sport they can add in the Switch Sports 2, like an air hockey, I guess, could work, that demonstrates how Switch 2 mouse-con mode flows, right? How it works for gameplay. Maybe Switch Sports 2 could be it, but I expect a new IP that goes all in on the mouse-con mode. And honestly, I expect this one game to take up a meaty portion of the presentation, kind of like 1-2 Switch did back in 2017. And talking more about the presentation in general, I think there's going to be a lot of just reiterating what the Nintendo Switch is, maybe a little bit of a history lesson on Nintendo consoles, very similar to what we did see back in 2017, where we had all of these Nintendo talking heads coming out, talking about the evolution leading up to the Nintendo Switch, demonstrating what the Joy-Con are, even though we kind of already knew, showing off the Pro Controller, the dock, just demonstrating everything, how it all works. I think we will see similar videos that, to a lot of the more hardcore fans, might feel a little redundant. We're still going to see that stuff here, I'm pretty sure. And a part of that would be this new EPD4 game where we get a trailer for it, and then they go really in-depth showing how the mouse-con work. I think we will see that here. And then finally, from Nintendo First Party on launch, I've gone back and forth on this. You all know if you've been watching my videos. I do think Metroid Prime 4 Beyond will be there on launch day. However, I don't think it's going to be like as big of a deal as even I would have hoped for Metroid. I'm wearing my Metroid Fusion shirt. I want Metroid to be bigger. I think this is going to be their way of demonstrating what a Switch 2 Edition game is. Now, this was leaked on the website where they detail the new Nintendo Virtual Game Cards. Something in the fine print referencing Nintendo Switch 2 Edition games sounds like it's just Nintendo's way of classifying cross-generation games or patches for next gen. We will have to wait and see what that is, but I think their way of demonstrating what a Switch 2 Edition is and what that means, I think Metroid Prime 4 will be like their guinea pig to show us, like, hey, this is how this works. You can buy it on Switch 1, you pop it into your Switch 2, maybe you automatically get the update, maybe you have to pay a small fee. And most importantly, I just think the Switch 2 needs to have a big single-player game on launch. Nintendo, they like to have their quirky gimmick game, their like tech demo game, so to speak, but they also like to have that single-player game. And maybe Mario Kart 9 could be that. Maybe there is a big story focus in this new Mario Kart, but I think Metroid Prime 4 Beyond will be there. Also launching same day on Switch 1, right? It's not going to have a staggered release. So I think we're looking at 3 meaty Nintendo games on release day, which would already make it like one of the best Nintendo launch lineups of all time. I just think there's too much weird stuff going on with Prime 4 Beyond. I made a video on it yesterday talking about the lack of an ESRB rating so far. There's obviously all the Switch 2 Edition stuff. I just feel like Prime 4 is going to show up in this direct. I'm pretty confident in that, and I do think it being a launch title makes a lot of sense. Maybe it's a few weeks after, man. Like maybe they put it out in July or even at the end of June or something. But I'm going to hedge my bets and say this will be a launch title for the console. So Mario Kart, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, and EPD4 all on the same day. Woo, that's going to be an exciting day to be a Nintendo fan. Now let's shift gears and talk a little bit about third parties. Now, this is really hard to predict because basically every third-party game has been rumored, but when talking about specifically games that I think will be there on release day for this console, I really tried to narrow it down while still being like optimistic, but also realistic, if that makes sense. Because there's rumors that like every Ubisoft game is coming, every Xbox game is coming, every EA game is coming. Like there basically is a rumor for every third-party game, and I don't think we're gonna get all of them on release day. However, watching the Switch 2017 presentation back again, that sizzle reel at the end, even though these games weren't highlighted in like individually in that showcase, that sizzle reel announced a ton of stuff. I was really surprised, but I counted, and there's like around 20 new games that were in that Switch sizzle reel from third parties as well as first party, right? Snipper Clips was technically seen for the first time in that sizzle reel, but stuff like the Sky of 5 Complete, Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, Dragon Quest Heroes 1 and 2, Fast RMX, Just Dance 2017, Minecraft and Minecraft Story Mode, Bomberman R, that new Bomberman from Konami, those were all in that sizzle reel, and I think we are going to see a similar sizzle reel here, but the difference is going to be that a lot of the third parties we see are a little bit more meaty. A lot of the games I just listed off are pretty small. They're more indie sized or even from smaller Japanese publishers. But Nintendo's in a very different position now, where I think even the big dogs will be very happy to get their old PS4 and PS5 games on the Switch 2 and have it show up in a sizzle reel. So here's what I have written down. I think this will actually be a bigger list when we come to see the Switch 2 presentation, but here's what I have written down. Doom: The Dark Ages, coming out in May. Couple weeks late port, but I do think Bethesda will have this there very early on. Sea of Thieves is a huge one that launched on PS5 last year, and I think the numbers came out, it's already sold like 2 million on PS5, so I think Xbox and Rare want to have that there very early. You might notice a theme here, we're going over Xbox stuff. Forza Horizon 5 coming to PS5 at the end of April. I think that is a no-brainer there. You'd like to have that kind of showcase a racing game, and I guess maybe you say this for a little bit later. I don't know if Mario Kart would really step on the toes of Forza or vice versa, but I think Forza, Xbox will get there early on. I don't have Indiana Jones listed here. I think that'll come a little bit later, but I do think it will come. But maybe, right? Maybe it shows up in the sizzle reel. But this is just for launch. I should once again specify. Doom, Sea of Thieves, Forza, these are all launch games I'm predicting here. Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, as well as Dynasty Warriors Origins. Koei Tecmo showed up in a pretty big way for the Switch 1 early on, and I think we will see both of these as launch titles. Just thinking back, we usually get a Warriors game on release, even if it is an old port. And we also, completely random, but like Ninja Gaiden 3, that was a Wii U launch title. So I think it would be kind of serendipitous if Ninja Gaiden 2 Black showed up on release day for the Switch 2 alongside Dynasty Warriors Origins, which is already doing great numbers for that series. Assassin's Creed, in some way, the rumor is Mirage. This would have to be in a sizzle reel. I can't imagine Nintendo really showcasing Mirage. Like, it's a 3-year-old game almost. It just feels a little weird. If it was Shadows, maybe it would get a little bit more of a big push, but I'm just going to say Mirage because that is the rumor. Shadows would definitely be more appealing, or even Odyssey or Origins, native versions of those, because there was the cloud version of Odyssey, or even Valhalla, I guess. But Mirage just feels like a weird one, man, to make a launch title. But I do think there will be some sort of Assassin's Creed game here, and that's the only Ubisoft game I have listed. I could see there being more stuff like Riders Republic, or The Division, Rainbow Six Siege, I do think will come over. I'm just not sure if they're like launch title material. Ubisoft is an interesting one because, not to spoil the rest of the list, I don't have anything else from them in terms of announcements, but usually they show up to a Nintendo console early on. You look at Mario Rabbids, Zombie U, Red Steel. They like to have something there pretty early on, so maybe we see an entire exclusive from them. I'm not sure. Ubisoft's all out of whack recently, though, so I'm not really confident in either predicting or hoping for like a new Switch 2 exclusive game from them. This one has been talked about extensively, but Elden Ring Complete Edition, I do think will be, at the very least, announced here and confirmed from Bandai Namco. I'm conflicted on launch or if it'll be holiday, though, because it's been likened to being like the Switch 2 Skyrim, right? The Switch 1 reveal had Skyrim in there. It was a huge deal. People have said like, oh, okay, Elden Ring's going to be that, but for Switch 2. And I do think Elden Ring's coming, and I do think it'll be a year one title. I'm just not sure if they would want to release such a big game on a release day, especially with all these other things. I mean, Elden Ring could really have its own pop later in the year, maybe as a holiday game with all of the, Shadow of the Erdtree DLC in there. There's also the question of Night Rain, which is going to release likely before the Switch 2. So I'm not sure what they want to do with Elden Ring. I'm going to say launch title, though. I think that'd be really exciting. I would definitely double dip on it and buy it again on Switch 2. Just play it portably would be awesome, seeing how it runs. But I don't know. This one I'm kind of torn on. It could be a big holiday game. They could make this like a bigger splash than just as a launch title. Split Fiction from EA. Once again, I could see this being saved for a little bit later, but EA, I don't have anything else listed here. They're not going to port last year's sports games when the new wave is coming out, so we'll say Split Fiction will be a launch title. That's obviously a very hugely popular co-op game. Perfect fit for Nintendo's type of audience. Square Enix is a little tricky with like Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth. I don't think we're going to be getting those. However, I do think we will see Final Fantasy XIV come over very early, potentially even on launch day. That's what I'm going to lock in here. That's their MMO. I love Final Fantasy XIV. I am going to lose my mind playing this game on the Switch 2, but specifically because, one, I think they want to get this on as many platforms as possible early on because it's a subscription. They want to just get as many new people in as possible. But two, this could be a great demonstration of MouseCon. I mean, you want to play an MMO with the mouse. I actually play it mostly on PS5 using the controller, and you have to use the touchpad to move the mouse cursor around. But if Nintendo wants to show some third parties off that show the mouse on launch day, I think Final Fantasy XIV is a good pick. I think something like Age of Empires or Age of Mythology, all that stuff from Microsoft, I think we'll get a couple of like strategy games on top of Final Fantasy XIV. And talking about Square Enix a little bit more, this one just kind of popped into the noggin as we were talking. However, there was something really weird about that Nintendo Direct on a Thursday last week, and that was that it opened on Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD, but it didn't have a release date. So here's my prediction. I think Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is their first-party way of showing that there will be a Switch 2 edition at launch. I think there will also be some third parties, and I mean, this would make it a huge launch day in Japan, but what if Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD are actually launch titles for the Switch 2? Of course, also coming to Switch 1 and PS5 and everything else, but what if there's a Switch 2 edition and it is kind of marketed as a launch title for this console? I think that is actually a pretty good shout, and that's kind of what I have for launch third-party games. It's kind of a crapshoot of like what actually is going to be ready. I don't have Persona or Metaphor here, but talking a little bit more about new announcements before we get into the first-party stuff. What new third-party games are we going to see at this Nintendo Direct? Last time we didn't have too much, but even with Nintendo's, I would say, lackluster support at the time, there were still a couple things, most notably Octopath as well as Shin Megami Tensei 5 being teased. There was also the Suda51 awkward one-stage moment where he said Travis will return or Travis will strike again, teasing No More Heroes 3. But Nintendo, once again, is in a very different place, so I think we will see some more significant third-party support, still mostly from Japanese developers. I'm not sure what Western studios could really announce like a big major thing here for Nintendo, but third-party stuff. So we talked about Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD maybe having a Switch 2 edition on launch day, or maybe, you know, near launch, because I still think the lack of a release date in the Direct last week was really weird. So maybe they weren't announcing it because they knew it was a launch title, they didn't want to say. So maybe Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD, but also I think we will see, and this will be the biggest third-party game here by far, Dragon Quest 12. I think it's finally time we see this game. I think Square Enix specifically has been waiting to show this alongside the Switch 2. This was announced back in 2021. It has been a long time since Dragon Quest 12 was revealed. I don't think it's going to come out for another year or two, but I think this is where we get our first look at it, alongside some other stuff from Square Enix. I think Square Enix might have the biggest third-party presence here in terms of new announcements, including Final Fantasy IX Remake. This has been rumored for so long. Maybe it's still too early. I think the rumor is that it's coming out next year, so maybe you see this in a Direct in like September or something, but I think Final Fantasy IX Remake has a good likelihood of showing up here, as well as Team Asano's next project. Now, they were teasing some sort of Bravely news back in 2024, and that didn't happen. And then I thought maybe we would get like a Bravely collection in that Direct, and that also didn't happen. But for their next project, I kind of want to predict like a new IP, like something new, not Octopath, not Triangle Strategy, not Bravely, just something new entirely, be that HD 2D or something else. I think we will see whatever Team Asano's next thing is here, though. I don't know if Nintendo will still publish it like they were on the Switch, but I think we will see whatever they're cooking up, be that Bravely 3rd or Octopath 3 or something else. I think we will see them here. So yeah, Square Enix, I think, will show up in a big way. Just not... I don't know, Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth, maybe those are announced here, but not for launch. Maybe launch from Square Enix is looking like Final Fantasy XIV, Dragon Quest 1 and 2, and then like later in the year, maybe like as a holiday thing, you see Team Asano's next project, Dragon Quest 12, could be 2026, I guess, like late 2026. I think that sounds about right. And then Final Fantasy IX Remake also rumored for next year. It's going to be tough to see like when they want to announce these things and schedule them, but I do think out of every third party, Square Enix is going to show up here in a pretty big way in terms of new announcements for like the future, not at launch. I also have a couple other things written down here, but it's honestly really hard to predict third party stuff. Ace Attorney 7 from Capcom, I think, is pretty good bet. I was gonna say like a Resident Evil thing, maybe not 9, that's gonna be at a Sony event, I imagine, but Zero Remake is rumored. Maybe we could see that, but I think given that we just got the final Ace Attorney collection that needs to be done a few months ago, I think Ace Attorney 7, it's time. It's time to see this new entry in the series. I also was thinking maybe Mega Man. We are due for a Mega Man thing. but also there is still a couple collections they could do. They could do a Legends collection, they could do a Star Force collection. So I'll hold off on Mega Man, and I think from Capcom, our big announcement, big new announcement would be Ace Attorney 7, though I don't think this would be out this year, maybe like late 2025, maybe early 2026 for Ace Attorney 7. And I guess dialing it back to the launch titles, I didn't have a Capcom game written down, so could we see like Street Fighter 6 as a launch title? Monster Hunter Wilds, I think that would break Japan. I don't think they could handle Monster Hunter Wilds as well as Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD. I don't think that's a good idea. So maybe Monster Hunter Wilds would be later, but at launch, I think Street Fighter 6 or maybe native ports of like Resident Evil 7, 8, 2 remake, 3 remake. Maybe we could see those. I think the likeliest would be Street Fighter 6, though. So I'll lock that in. Street Fighter 6 announced for launch with maybe like a DLC pass included in the standard edition, but then also Ace Attorney 7 teased for later in the year or early next. I was really trying to dig deep here and think about like what third-party games could they really surprise us with. Persona 6 is one that's often talked about. I think we still need to get Persona 5X or whatever it's called localized. They're also having that Raido thing. Persona 4 Remake seems to also be closer than expected. So I don't think we'll get anything massive new from Sega. Yakuza, I guess they could show up here. There was a rumor about Yakuza 0 Remake, so we will see. That'd be an interesting one to pop up here. But in terms of like really surprising us with franchises that we haven't seen for a while, that we weren't really maybe expecting to get new entries in the near future, I think back to 2017, and I think back to when we saw Super Bomberman R, and I was thinking about Konami, and you know what? I don't know who'd be making it. They have a lot of weird partners now. They're doing Bloober Team, they're doing this team that's doing Silent Hill F, but I think one of the big third-party surprises from this presentation is going to be a new Castlevania game. I think it's time. They have the anime, they are reviving Silent Hill, Metal Gear Solid has a remake coming out. It's time for Castlevania to get some love. I don't know, once again, who would be doing it. I don't think Mercury Steam would be doing it because I think they're busy with their own projects, but also Metroid 6. So, Castlevania. I think that's going to be one of the bigger new third-party announcements at this Nintendo Direct for Switch 2 games. Let me know what you think of those third-party predictions. Like I said, it's really hard to predict what ports will come, but also what new announcements we'll have, because there were some pretty meaty ones in 2017, but Nintendo it was such a different time where a lot of those devs were not willing to support Nintendo. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Ubisoft had some pretty major new announcements here, or, I mean, even like an EA game or something. I don't know. It's just such a different world we're living in. But that's what I have written down. We'll see. It's all jigsaw pieces, man. You could really mix and match anything. But Dragon Quest 12, I am very confident. That is like the one third-party new game coming out that I'm confident will pop up in this Direct. Ace Attorney 7 also, and then I guess Team Asano from there. And then new Castlevania would be really cool. But from there, let's go ahead and talk about some first-party announcements. We already covered Mario Kart 9 launch title, EPD4 Project launch title, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond I think will be here as a Switch 2 Edition launch title. But what new games do I think they'll announce here? So at the 2017 presentation, Nintendo actually announced like 10 or 11 games, depending on how you count it. I guess they showed that many because Breath of the Wild was there. But then also like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was announced on Twitter or through a press release. Snippet Clips was in that sizzle reel. I don't think we'll get quite that many. It's also worth noting that the roadmap is a little tightened now because the Switch came out in March of 2017. This will likely be coming out in May or June. So there's literally less months for them to fill. I think they'll save 2026 Switch 2 games for later in the year in a June or September Direct. So we're really covering June through December with maybe one or two things that's further out. But for first-party announcements, beyond what we already covered, 3D Mario, it's time. I would be absolutely flabbergasted if we do not see the next EPD7 3D Mario in this showcase, which, I mean, hey, we're 48 hours away or less than that from seeing the next 3D Mario after Mario Odyssey 8 years ago. Oh my goodness. Don't even really know what to say in terms of expectations for this game. I know it's going to blow me away. Open world, I guess, is the idea. I'm not even sure if I necessarily want that, but if they do go that direction, I trust the 3D Mario team to cook up something really special here. And I think this is actually a good call for the game that might close this entire showcase, is this 3D Mario game for holiday. I don't think it would be dated here. I think they say that for June or September Direct, but 3D Mario, it's time. We're going to see it. Next up, and this is what I'm very conflicted on, but I do think we will see whatever the next game from EPD5 is. EPD5, of course, being the developers of Splatoon as well as Animal Crossing. Now, with Tomodachi Life coming out next year, we don't know when, but it's coming out next year, I almost want to change my initial predictions to saying Animal Crossing will be this year, because I don't know if they would want to put Animal Crossing and Tomodachi Life both out in 2026. I mean, that'd be crazy. But I do think we're going to be looking at both of these games pretty soon, within the next like 18, 24 months. I'm still going to lock in Splatoon 4, though, first. I think Splatoon 4 makes a little bit more sense to get out there early. And in fact, Tomodachi Life being next year maybe even supports this idea of them having that kind of cozy casual game, likely in early 2026. So put out Splatoon 4 now, this summer, let's say July or August. Going to be a massive game. It is a little soon after Splatoon 3, but we've seen with the original Switch, I think Nintendo wants Splatoon to always be active. I think they always want to have a Splatoon game that's out and getting updated. Splatoon 3 had its Final Fest a while ago now. It's a quick turnaround, but they did a quick turnaround for Splatoon 2. I think we will see a very similar thing here where they want to keep pushing this franchise, right? Animal Crossing, already huge. The next one's going to be a guaranteed mega smash hit. And Splatoon is popular, but it's nowhere near that. So I think a game like Splatoon 4 benefits more from being a year one title. So yeah, that's my other first party prediction. We're talking 3D Mario, Splatoon 4. And then next up, I think we will see something out of left field. Now this is, once again, just hard to predict, but I think we're going to see something that makes us go like, oh, wow, they're actually doing that right now. Similar to how I felt when I saw Tomodachi Life and Rhythm Heaven last week. I'm going to say Star Fox. I think Star Fox. I think maybe like a next level games develop Star Fox. Maybe Luigi's Mansion 4 is going to be their next project afterwards. We don't see that early on in the Switch 2's life. I think Star Fox could be the franchise that Nintendo tries to revive and bring back next as one of their like big WTF moments in this showcase. And that could be like a real graphical showcase too if it is next level. Nintendo has just been so good about reviving dead franchises that I'd be kind of surprised if we get through this entire presentation without something coming back from the dead. Maybe they want to play it a little bit more safe. Maybe you see this in like a year 2 or 3. But I mean, the next level games kind of timeline is usually having a game every 3 years, and it's been almost 3 years now since Mario Strikers. So it kind of feels like time, and they used to be kind of known as the developer that would revive dead Nintendo franchises. They did Punch-Out, they revived Luigi's Mansion, they did Federation Force. It'd be cool if before we get Luigi's Mansion 4, they do another Nintendo IP that is dormant, and I think Star Fox is a really good fit for them. Other out of left field, like potential announcements, F-Zero, gonna start predicting that every time. I think we will get one in the future. F-Zero 99 was I don't know if it was a huge hit, but I loved it. I don't know about you guys. I loved F-Zero 99, so I think we'll eventually get something from that, but maybe not here. Nintendogs. Now that we're getting Tomodachi Life and Rhythm Heaven, I mean, more of this like DS era nostalgia baits, I think a Nintendogs could actually happen. Maybe Camelot is doing Golden Sun, but that feels like a weird year 1 title, so I'm going to lock in Star Fox. Cool graphical showcase, lines up nicely if it is going to be done by next level, and it's just one of those other franchises that I think Nintendo regrets letting stay dormant so long. I think that's what I'm going to lock in as my out of left field first party announcements. And then finally, I made a whole video on this. I've talked about this a lot in the past, but something Zelda. I think Nintendo will want to have something Zelda related in year 1 of this console. And I think there's actually a chance they announce 2 games here. I think maybe we have Aonuma come out. He says, hey, we are working hard on the next 3D Zelda game. Here is a quick teaser or a quick look at it. And barring that, I do think they would want to have something this year, and based on development timelines, based on the fact that we did just get Echoes of Wisdom, I don't think they want to do a remake here. Ocarina would be big enough. Ocarina remake is a big enough deal, but I think a little bit more of a realistic expectation is a new Hyrule Warriors game. It's been over 3 years, or almost 3 years now, since Koei Tecmo and Nintendo partnered up for Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes. Age of Calamity did extremely well. Hyrule Warriors, gonna predict that for like a September or October launch. I think that makes a lot of sense as the Zelda game for this year. And then also maybe a teaser for that next 3D Zelda game, even if it's still 3 years away. I made a whole video going over Zelda and the release patterns and announcement patterns that we normally see. If that game's coming out in 2028 or even 2029, we are about at the right timing of development for it to be announced based on Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild, Skyward Sword, Twilight Princess, basically all of them. They get announced pretty early on average. Maybe Nintendo wants to stop doing that, but I think there is a chance if they really want to sell the Switch 2 early on and, you know, make people convinced like this is going to be a big deal. Like, okay, we have our launch lineup and launch window of Mario Kart, Metroid, Star Fox, Splatoon 4, right? Those are all very exciting, but here's something way further out in the future. Here's a Zelda game that's going to come out in 2 years that we can keep showing you in every direct moving forward. I think even if it's not Zelda, I do think there will be something like that. Some sort of far out future game that they can kind of keep talking about and teasing. They didn't necessarily do that in the January 2017 presentation. There were a couple things that were further out from third parties like Octopath and SMT5, but at E3 2017, they did do this, where they announced Metroid Prime 4. They announced even Yoshi and Kirby without titles. They had Ishihara from the Pokemon Company confirming that a next-gen Pokemon game would come to Switch 1. I think we will see something like that here, and I think the franchise that makes the most sense to do it with is 3D Zelda. So those are my predictions, my hopes, and my dreams for the Nintendo Switch 2 and Nintendo Direct. Let me know what you think of my predictions. It's weird because I look at this list and I'm like, wow, that's way too much. But then I cross-reference it and compare it to the 2017 presentation. I'm like, wow, there almost might not be enough here, which sounds so ludicrous, but I think this is going to be a big blowout presentation. I didn't mention Monolith Soft. I would love to see them. That's a true dream, seeing whatever Monolith Soft is working on, but it feels a little too soon. I think maybe we see that next year. But let me know your thoughts on these predictions, and let me know what your predictions are for the showcase. Only like 48 hours to go. I'll have another video tomorrow morning going over something. I mean, there's going to be something to talk about tomorrow, I'm sure. If leaks start happening or rumors, that kind of thing. And then I will be going live, I think 2 hours before the Nintendo Direct, which would be at like 4 a.m. for me, Pacific. I'll have it scheduled tomorrow. So if you want to watch the reaction with me and have a little bit of a pre-show chat, definitely subscribe and stay tuned to the channel for that. As always, subscribe here, follow me on Twitter at BoTalksGames, check out my other channel at It's Amiibo, and you can click on one of these 2 videos here to listen to me ramble about even more Nintendo stuff. Until next time, folks, peace!